Blog Talk Radio.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Golf Talk Live. I'm your host, Ted Odorico, and tonight we're going to start with another great round of Coach's Corner here on Golf Talk Live. I'll bring up my guest panel in just a few minutes here. But first, let me tell you who else is going to be on Golf Talk Live tonight. And joining me a little bit later in the program is LPGA Professional Cindy Miller. We're going to be interviewing her a little bit later in the program and talk about a new venture that her and I have put together, and as well as hear a little bit about Cindy Miller Golf. So make sure you stay tuned to the program after Coach's Corner, because it's going to be a great interview, and I'm looking forward to having Cindy on. She's never been on the program before, and we've been chatting quite a bit over the last few months about this new project that we're working on, and we're going to tell you guys a little bit about later on in the broadcast. Don't forget, we're live every Thursday evening at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time here on blogtalkradio.com. You can type in Golf Talk Live once you visit that website, and you'll bring up directly to the link, or you can just / after blogtalkradio.com and get us at Golf Talk Live that way. If you want to speak to the guest tonight live, we are, as I said, live from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. That's 7 to 9 for you East Coasters. You can call into the program at area code 646-716-4667, or you can email me questions to questions.golftalklive@gmail.com. Don't forget, you can also get updates for the show on social media. Facebook, we're at facebook.com/golftalkliveblog. Don't forget to add the blog on the end. And you can also follow me on Twitter at TedandBuckCEO. I appreciate all the ones that have been following me over the last few months. And don't forget to check out the Golf Talk Live website blog at www.golftalkliveblog.com. My first guest coming on in the panel this evening is Bob Forman. He's been on the program, of course, before. We interviewed him several months back. He's a certified golf fitness instructor and the director of Golf Fitness Academies at High Point Regional in North Carolina. And he's joining us on the road on his way up to Asheville. And we're going to talk to him in just a second. And, of course, joining him this evening on Coach's Corner panel is a first-timer here, Brad Redding. He's a PGA Master Teacher Professional, as well as a Golf Magazine Top 100 teacher, and he's the Director of Instruction at the Members Club at Grande Dunes in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and also the owner-operator of Brad Redding Golf. Gentlemen, welcome to Coach's Corner.
Nice being here. Thanks, Brad. Ted.
Not a problem. Okay, guys, let me just do a quick thing here just to let it – I think we actually I think we lost Brad here. That's probably why he didn't respond. Let me just read a quick thing here while I wait for him to come back, and then we'll move on. Just to let everybody know, just to remind everybody, every Thursday night you'll have an opportunity to call or email your questions to the program and pick the brains of some of the best coaches and teacher professionals in the business, like my gentleman on here tonight. And here's how you can do it. You can call into the program at area code 646-716-4667, or you can also email your questions at questions.golftalklive@gmail.com. Brad, welcome back to the program. I know we lost you there temporarily. We're actually live now on the air.
Great.
Okay, good stuff. Just as I was mentioning here to Bob just a second ago, I've already done the introductions, Nat, and I'm just going to finish reading something here quickly, and then we're going to get right into some questions that were submitted over the last week or so.
Okay.
This segment, of course, here's how it's going to work, guys, just to give you an idea. Each week I'm going to post some questions to you guys here for discussion. I'll start the discussion and then rotate around each of the members of the panel for some general comments, and then open the floor to any additional comments. Afterwards, if we have some live call-ins, we'll take some live calls and or some additional email questions from the audience that have been coming in over the last actually several months. So this is your opportunity, guys, out there, for you listening to join the discussion. Call in any time during the live broadcast. Again, between 6 p.m. Central Standard Time and 7 p.m. Central Standard Time is the Coach's Corner segment, and you can call us here at 646-716-4667, or you can email questions to questions.golftalklive@gmail.com. And boy, I'll tell you, I had to do some fast talking to get that out. Okay, guys, I sent you the email earlier just to give you an idea of what we were going to start the program. There's going to be sort of a general question that we're going to start with, and want to get your thoughts and feedback into that. And it's sort of a general theme, if you will, to start the program. And then we're going to get into some other questions. And this week I chose balance swinging on 2 good feet, and it was submitted by a gentleman by the name of Kenneth. And here's what he had to say to me. He said in the email, he said, I play a few times a week and have trouble keeping my balance. Not sure what I'm doing wrong, but I tend to fall back on my right foot a lot. Any tips on keeping balance? Bob, I'm going to start with you a little bit. Any suggestions here or any ideas that maybe why Kenneth is falling off?
I mean, balance is an important component in all facets of the game, you know, on the tee box, out on the fairway, around the green, and even putting. And, I mean, there's various factors that can impact balance. I mean, if Kenneth is a right-handed golfer, I mean, there could be issues with, you know, his ability to, you know, transfer his weight onto the back foot in the backswing, and that could be related to several factors. You know, I see a lot of golfers with that same issue, and some of the more common deficiencies that prop up in those golfers are the inability to really kind of make a good hip turn because of the fact that they have tight internal hip rotator muscle groups. And so what happens is if they try to get the club back, it kind of pulls them laterally to the side. They almost kind of get into a sway move where the hips are moving laterally and the weight kind of gets out, you know, to the outside part of the foot as opposed to staying on the inside part of the foot. That's just one of several factors that could be, you know, the reasoning why he's losing his balance. I mean, the other issue is that there are a lot of golfers that just don't have good balance, period. You know, they practice, they may not practice their balance. And especially, you know, a lot of golfers are practicing static balance, and it's really more dynamic balance, you know, where there's movement involved that they really need to focus on.
Well, for you know, Bob's going to come at.
So many thoughts?
Yeah, he's going to come at it from a physical standpoint. I'm going to come at it from a more of a swing issue. You know, you're swinging a golf club that's going to be moving in certain directions, and when that club swings in the wrong direction, it's definitely going to have an effect on how the golfer stays in balance. As far as falling back, what I see a lot of is on the way back, the club goes too far to the inside, you know, what I would call below the swing plane. It's very much behind them. They can't keep on turning there, so they're going to lift the club to the top. Once it lifts the top, the body's going to tend to tilt and lean to, if you're a right-handed golfer, lean to your left.
Right.
As it comes down, the club's going to go outside, come from outside to in on the downswing. To do that, the body's going to have to fall back to its right side just to get out of the way, because if they stayed in their way, they'd actually, you know, injure themselves. So they actually back up and fall back to their right side as the club comes down, just simply to find the golf ball. So, you know, I see that a lot, that the club kind of controls what your body can and can't do. The way I look at it is that the body tends to accommodate what the club's doing. There's definitely some physical issues there, but for most golfers, I see the club moving a certain way, and the body has to accommodate what the club's doing.
Right, exactly. Great points, guys. And also, too, I think, just to throw my own thoughts in here, this is obviously, especially with your high handicap golfers, this is a very common thing we see all the time out there as teacher professionals. And one of the things that I've come across, and Bob, I think you sort of hit on it here, is sort of the physical ability of a player. I think if there's a lot of tension and there's a lot of in certain muscle groups, especially your bigger muscles and that, and you're not getting a proper weight shift going into the back foot on your backswing, that's going to create a whole myriad of problems. So, I mean, I think it's sort of a marriage of not only swinging the club, but I think also of maybe poor core, you know, physical abilities or lack of abilities in that area sometimes are not allowing you to make a proper shift or, as you said, also a proper hip turn. So there's a lot of different factors. So if we wanted to give, gentlemen, and we'll go back to Bob here in a second, if we want to give Kenneth some tips on how he can improve things, Bob, if you want to give it from more of the physical end of it, that'd be great. And Brad, if you want to also talk about from some swing tips, let's give Kenneth some tips that he can use to maybe alleviate some of that problem. Bob, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I mean, a lot of a good exercise they do with a lot of golfers to help them with their balance is just a simply balance matrix drill. And basically what, Kenneth, you want to do is to balance yourself on one foot. And, for instance, let's say if you get up on the right foot, you want to go through the various planes of movement. So as you're balancing on the right foot, you kind of want to reach out in front of you and kind of almost get yourself out of balance and then catch yourself and then come on back into balance, and do that several times on that right foot, and then switch over to the left side. And then once again, balance on the right foot, and this time reach out with the right hand out to the side. So you're going to go laterally to the side. So now we're working more in the frontal plane. And again, get yourself almost out of balance and come on back. Do that a couple times. And then reach across with your left arm across your body towards the right side. And then repeat that same movement pattern on the left foot. And then finally, for the transverse plane, where you're going to get rotation involved, is to, again, balance on your right foot. And then with both arms, rotate your upper body around to the back, again, as far as you comfortably can, and then come back to the starting position. Do that 2 or 3 times, and then repeat that on the left side. But that's a great matrix for a lot of golfers, or really all golfers, to do, to really work on their dynamic balance.
Excellent points. Well said, Bob. Brad, do you want to add in some issues and some tips, maybe from the swing standpoint?
Sure. The most common move in golf is people have a loop in their golf swing. They tend to swing too far to the inside or below. The club moves too far inside of what I call below the swing plane. They can't keep on turning there, so they're going to lift the club to the top. The only place they can come from on the way down is to go to the outside. So the club goes to the outside of the swing plane and kind of cuts across the golf ball, and that's the most common move in golf. I mean, they do it to varying degrees and various ways, but that is the most common move in golf. And what that basically is the loop, in, up, and over, what I call it, in, up, and over. So I try to help them find the opposite. I want to go more up, in, and under. When they reverse that loop, more of a, I don't want them to swing like Jim Furyk, but they'd have that vision in their mind of a guy who tends to go more, outside the swing plane to the top, and then comes underneath the swing plane on the way down. And the swing plane being established at address with the shaft at address, that'd be referred to as your swing plane. And I have a lot of golfers who will reverse that. I feel like it's a big loop to them because they've been going the other way for so long, and they don't recognize that the old move is a loop. I change that and make it more of the opposite loop, and they tend to find more of the back of the golf ball that way. So, and their body will move better because the club is moving in a direction that the body can be more in balance. Obviously, if it's going outside, the weight goes to the toes on the way down. They fall forward, I think it tends to help them make a better move, and their body stays more in balance.
And just one final thought on this I want to sort of inject. Because, Brad, you mentioned something about, especially some of the older golfers now that have been playing for a while. What do we do in a case where you've had somebody that's been making, sort of these same swing movements for years and years and years? Do we have to be careful that we don't try to reinvent the wheel with these golfers? Because, a lot of them maybe have worked with what they've had for years and maybe having a balance issue. But obviously we need to make some changes to correct that problem, but we don't want to have to reinvent the whole golf swing for this individual and then end up, where he's got other issues now. And has to work from sort of, square one. Brad, do you want to comment on that? And then, Bob, if you have any additional comments, I'd appreciate you chiming in as well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you get someone to come to see you, and he is basically, say he's a 12 handicapper, but playing now to an 18. He's getting kind of killed from his buddies in their weekend Nassau games, and all he wants to do is get back to a 12. And and so I tell the guy, I say, look, if we want to get back to a 12. Again, we can't reinvent the wheel, but that move you have is tending to make some problems. So I try to make it, I don't want to work on 15 things. I want to work on 2 or 3 things.
Right.
The person cannot actually comprehend 15 things. It's been research has been studied that when you get things down to 1, 2, or 3 things, and that's what I do. Try to change 1, 2, or 3 things and get them to make a little different shape. To me, the ball flight sells the move. And if the ball flight improves, and they look at me and say, that feels awfully weird, Brad. I said, but what did the golf ball do? They say, I love what the golf ball did, Brad. That's great, but that feels pretty strange. I go, well, I'm here to fix your ball flight. I'm not here to make the golf thing feel better. I want to make the golf ball do something better. So once I make that change and the golf ball starts performing the way it should, it sells itself.
Exactly. Excellent point. Bob, you got anything further you want to?
Well, I think, with a lot of golfers, and especially the seasoned golfers, I like to call them, the older golfers, the biggest factor physiologically is their lack of flexibility and range of motion. So, they try to make a big backswing and basically kind of pull themselves out of balance. And as Brad says, it messes up their swing plane. So, when you work with them and when you give them some exercises to work on the deficiencies, on the tightness, and improve their range of motion, they're more sturdy in their golf swing. The other factor is lower body stability, which, again, a lot of golfers lack because, we tend to sit a lot during the day, and that tends to weaken two primary muscle groups that are really responsible for balance, and that's the quad muscles in the front part of the thigh, and then the glutes or the buttock muscles in the back. And you see that, especially the glutes, which again are your power muscles in your golf swing. They tend to lack strength in those, and just by working on a moderate strength program, that will help bring stability back in the lower body and will help with their balance and control during the swing.
Both, again, some excellent points, guys. And Kenneth, if you're out there listening live tonight, I hope we helped answer some of the questions here that you had, concerns about balance. And thank you for your question and for participating in Coach's Corner. All right, gentlemen, we're going to move on to some more questions. We've got one here from Mark from Phoenix, Arizona. He submitted a question into me, and here's a little bit of what he said, then I'll pose the question. I play fairly often here in my hometown of Phoenix. I drive the ball decent, but sometimes find myself in either the long grass or even in the trees. My problem is when I hit a bad tee shot, I don't always recover well. I often try to go for it when maybe I should lay up or punch out. Do you have any suggestions for me when the next time I hit off course? So essentially what he's saying is he's not getting the ball in a good position off the tee, and when he does, he's sometimes maybe taking a riskier recovery shot instead of maybe just playing back out in the fairway and playing his next shot. He's trying to pull off the miracle shot and probably ends up in worse shape. So this is more really not so much a physical issue as it is a mental issue and part of the mental game. So how do we approach that? Brad, I'm going to start with you first.
Well, what I tell people that have that issue as far as trying to go for the risky shot, I want them to kind of look at it as, okay, the ball flight to me is simply information. It's not good or bad. For it to be good or bad, you have to label it that, and I just use it as information. I tell my students, okay, use the golf ball as information as far as if it goes offline, and then you can realize, from past lessons what's actually happening in your swing that caused that. And then once they get into that trouble, I say, look, what we want to do here is get the golf ball back into play, and, you're playing now for bogey. You're not playing for par. You're playing for bogey. The key here is we don't want to make that big number, and that's what happens to a lot of golfers. They'll play pretty well for 5, 6 holes, all of a sudden, bam, throwing in an 8 or a 9, and I always look at them, I say, look, an 8's better than a 9, a 9's better than a 10, and a 10's better than an 11, and a 12 is no good, but it's a whole lot better than a 13. So I have to help them understand that, the goal here is that, okay, you put yourself in bad trouble, in a bad situation. Let's make the best possible score we can, but let's not make that big number. So I have them kind of think through it as far as that route in helping them understand, okay, we got to play for bogey now, and so get the golf ball back into play, knock it on the green, 2-putt for bogey, and let's go to the next hole.
Some good advice there for Mark out of Phoenix. Bob, do you want to add some thoughts in here as well?
Well, all I can say to that is I can relate to what he was talking about. Trying to be a hero and hit that big shot on the second shot. But I think Brad hit the nail on the head about, just trying to calm yourself down, use some common sense, get the ball back out in the fairway and play on. But, I think I can definitely relate.
And let me just ask you guys this, and obviously the culprit is watching some of the top players on TV, such as Tiger and Phil, and these guys, of course, are hitting some of these miraculous shots. So, as a weekend golfer, they get out there and they want to try and see if they can master the same shots, but it's just not feasible. A lot of them just don't have the physical strength that some of these tour players have. and they just don't have the expertise and knowledge on how to execute some of these shots. And to be quite honest, even Tiger and Phil would admit that on occasion some of these shots, it's just blind luck. I mean, sure, they have some expertise behind it, but they know there's a risk and rewards to every shot that they play. In their case, having the experience that they have under their belts, their reward is much higher than the average high handicapper. So if we wanted to give a general thought, if we will, to some of the higher handicap players, and Bob, I'm going to come back to you here just because you're not getting off the hook and just a quick answer and diverting to Brad here. So, but let's see if we can help some of these guys. What should they be thinking when they, how should they formulate in their mind when they know that their percentages are low of recovering? What should the first thought be coming into their mind when they get a bad tee shot like that?
Well, I think, first of all, are they consistently bad tee shots? And if they are, what's the tendency and why? Is it a swing fault that they have? Something like, are they pushing the ball on the tee shots? And, what's the correlation there? What's the relationship? The other thing is that when you're situated with these shots, it's not shots that you practice often, or maybe in some cases you do because you're always in those situations. But I mean, it's just a tough recovery, and you got to be careful because when you're in these situations where you're not on the fairway, you got to be careful with, the rough, the thickness of the rough, whether there might be a root underneath the ball. So I mean, you got to be thinking injury as well, injury prevention. So hopefully you're kind of assessing the situation when you get to the ball. You're kind of looking around to see whether or not there are any impediments in there or anything under the ball that may hurt yourself while you swing. And if there are,
right,
use common sense and move the ball and just kind of avoid getting hurt and going back to just get it out back and play. Don't be a hero and move on.
Good thoughts. Brad, do you have anything further you want to add? And if not, I have a couple points I want to make.
It's kind of like the story about Sam Snead playing with some guys in the Golf Digest schools, and Sam hits this great drive and hits a 3-iron on the green, and it takes one hop and backs up, and the guy asked him, said, "How do you do that?" And Sam said, "Okay, let me show you how to do it." I throws the ball down the ground, hits a shot to the green, and hits the green and backs up, and he goes, "Yeah, but how do you do that?" And Sam says, "Son, how far do you hit your 3-iron?" He said, about 150 yards. He said, "Why in the world would you want to back up a 3-iron that only goes 150 yards?" So he's kind of showing the guy that, you don't have the ability to hit that shot, so why should you try?
Right.
That's kind of the idea. You don't have the ability to hit this shot, so hit the shot that you feel most comfortable with, that you actually can actually perform well and have some confidence in the fact that it's going to get back into play, whether it be hitting a little chip 6-iron back in the fairway, hitting a little sand wedge back in the fairway, whatever it might be. But the shot you need to use is the one you have the most confidence that you can actually pull it off.
Some great tips, gentlemen. And let me just throw in a couple of quick thoughts here, and then we'll move on to our next question, because actually, Brad, you set this one up perfectly. My thoughts on this for Mark out in Phoenix. What I would suggest is this: if you get out and you're starting your round in the first few holes and you're progressively getting worse off the tee with your driver, what I would suggest is you back off that club for that particular round, because for whatever reason it's just not gelling that particular day, and scale back off the tee to a club that you're more comfortable with and you know that you're going to get it in play, and then once you're able to do that, and that way that'll help save that round. You don't want to start monkeying around with your driver and trying to finesse, because what often happens, I find anyways, when somebody's getting in that predicament, they'll try and steer the ball with the club in order to avoid that trouble. So what I would do is suggest to back off your driver maybe that particular round and scale back, whether it be a 3-wood or even a hybrid club, and use that as your team club for that particular round. And then after the round, or a little bit later on, what I would suggest you do is go to the range and work on those shots. Don't work on them while you're out on the course playing your round, and go see, of course, your local teacher professional and get some help with that particular area. But don't try and fix it while you're out playing your round of golf. Eliminate the bad shot, if you will, out of that round to at least salvage the round, and then work on it when you're on the practice tee or on the range at a later time. And that's what I would suggest, Mark, you do, and certainly other tips that both Brad and Bob have pitched in. So I hope that helps you, Mark. Then we're going to move on. Well, this is something that I've seen, and I know you guys have seen over the years when you're working with different students. And I think we're all, when we were younger, we were a little bit guilty of this before we sort of understood how things worked. And, you get out there and you hit a couple of bad shots and you start thinking, okay, and the next thing you know, all these thoughts start creeping in your mind. And, as you indicated, I think, Brad, instead of an 8, you're getting a 9, and then it's a 10 and so on these holes. And before you know it, by the time you hit the turn, your round is so much in the, in the tank that you've just lost that momentum and you're not enjoying it. So to me, if you're starting off those first few holes and you're not hitting that particular club well off the tee, scale it back, regroup, if you will, and just move forward with it and work on it when you're on the practice tee with your teaching professional. That's what I would suggest.
Loft is your worst enemy in golf. I mean, the less loft you have, the more it's going to tend to still fall offline, and the more loft you have, the more it tends to negate that error. So yeah, that's a great tip, Bob. Great tip, Ted. Great.
Yep. All right. Gentlemen, as I said, Brad, you sort of talking about backspin there. We're going into our next question here from Jacob from the Big Apple, New York, and his is a very simple problem. He says, my game for the most part is good. My question is about approach shots to the green. We talked a little bit about this last week. Mine tend to run off the green. How do I add backspin to help hold those greens? So, Brad, I'm going to let you start first on this one.
I get
Jacob
that question
a lot.
How
to put a little backspin.
Yeah, I get that question a lot, and people say, how do I, Brad, how do you make that wedge hit, hop once and back up a little bit? And I say, it's just good contact. I mean, I don't do anything special as far as trying to hit down on or anything like that. It's just that really good contact. So it's more of that ball than ground contact, where I catch the ball first, then I hit the ground after that. And again, that deals a lot with the proper plane, the proper angle that the club's coming in the golf ball. If the club's coming down on a very steep path, it's going to be a very steep divot. It'll catch more ground and then ball. And then the other way around, if they swing too much inside out, it's going to catch the golf ball in the upswing. They're catching the ball in the upswing. That won't put any backspin on it. So for me, it's more of fixing their path and making just good, solid contact with the golf ball. And the tip I would give them is that, okay, what do you do with your 6-iron? And they say, well, I make this kind of motion. I said, you know what? The wedge shot's not that different. It's simply the beginning of a full golf swing. So don't try to open your stance or open the face or all these compensations that people make with their swing. And I go, look, just make the same golf swing you make with your 6-iron, 7-iron, 8-iron, and you'll find more ball than ground contact, and you won't be trying to do all these fancy stuff, trying to hit down on it and things of that nature.
Well said. That's some great thoughts there. And Bob, do you want to add anything to this?
Well, I'm glad I'm on this show tonight because I'm learning quite a few things. It all comes down to swing sequence. The old kinematic sequence and making sure that your body is in proper position, and that's why it's great to work with guys like Brad in terms of him being the visual and watching where your body parts are and making sure that they're in the positions they need to be in for you to make an efficient golf swing. Where I come in is making sure that you're able to get into those positions, physically. Right. And for a lot of golfers, unfortunately, it's tough to do because of anatomical weaknesses and tightness. So, that's why it's a great collaboration between the physical and the skill piece so that you're swinging an efficient stick for all types of shots.
Agreed.
Yeah, and I think, Brad, you really couldn't have summed it up any better. I think it's so true at both points. I think, number one, you have to, and it doesn't really matter what age. Obviously, as we get older, I just celebrated the 5-0 a couple of weeks ago, so I'm now into the 50 club. And, obviously I've got to work a little bit harder in keeping myself in shape, but I've been very fortunate. I don't have a lot around the midsection yet, but I'm sure it's going to come as time goes on. But, that's so important, Bob, that the physical end of it as well. People don't realize, that you certainly don't have to be a brawny football player type or a super huge athlete to play golf. Golf can really be played across any spectrum, but it certainly helps to be able to execute the golf swing properly if you do have a good core and you're in good shape overall. So there's a lot of things that we can do to prepare ourselves. And as we get older, it's even more important because you're going to lose flexibility. You're going to lose, a certain amount of muscle and so forth. So it's good to do a lot of these things. And then, also, Brad, again, making solid contact with the ball first and not the ground, which obviously a lot of high handicappers do. Hitting some chunky divots and things like that is going to help to put that backspin. But going back to your earlier comment about Sam Snead, what I would say to a lot of these guys, I think they confuse it with baseball and they see the pitcher throwing curves and fastballs and sliders and they're thinking, well, how can I put a little junk on the golf ball here to make it, dance like some of these pros? Well, really the secret that the pros have is the fact that they make good solid contact virtually every time. And, with a few minor adjustments, they're able to work the ball the way they do. But there's really no magic trick or magic potion involved. And I think a lot of people need to focus on just making good, solid contact first and getting that trajectory and that ball flight, operable before they start worrying, about putting a little spin on it and so forth. And I think that's really what a lot of people need to focus on. So, Jacob, if I was to give you a tip, get out and start working on getting yourself in good shape if you're not already, or certainly continue to keep yourself in good shape, as Bob mentioned earlier. And also, as Brad had indicated, Jacob, make sure that you go out and work on making some solid contact.
And also, if I could just add one more thing, I mean, this kind of ties into the first question that Kenneth had about balance. It's about being stable. No matter how you set up, whether it's a chip shot, whether it's a 100-yard shot in, or you get off the tee box. And one of the things that I enjoy doing with golfers as they progress through their program is to work balance, and to do that, take your typical exercise that you're doing, that you're standing on a solid flat surface, and make it unstable. Mm-hmm. So in other words, take, some disc pillows or some just regular old pillows that you may have on the couch and stand on those while you're doing your bicep curls, while you're doing your shoulder press or whatever exercise it is you're doing. And by making that surface unstable, you add a balance element to the exercise that's going to help you out on the golf course when you're confronted with all these various type shots.
Yeah. Very good suggestion as well, Bob. Thanks, guys. Let me just take a quick little moment here. I just want to make a couple of quick comments, unrelated, and then we'll get right back into some more questions here. I just want to remind everybody that we are live here on Golf Talk Live, and if you want to join in the conversation, you're welcome to do so. We certainly would love to hear from you. You can do that by calling area code 646-716-4667. You can join Bob, Brad, and I here on Coach's Corner. And we're going to be here for a little bit longer. We've got a few more questions to go through, and then I'm going to let these gentlemen go and enjoy the rest of their week. Or you can email me questions at questions.golftalklive@gmail.com. And if you're a teach professional out there and you want to come on board and join on the Coach's Corner panel, in the future, you can email me at ted.golftalklive@gmail.com, and I'll certainly more than happy to work you into the mix. Guys, we're going to move on to an email here from Paul out of Detroit, Michigan. And his question, actually, funny enough, we seem to be leading right into these questions, is about ball position. He says, my question is on ball position. I have read several golf mags, books, etc., and there seems to be a difference in opinion. Some say you should play all your shots up towards your front foot. Others say that you should play your wedge in the middle and progressively move towards the front foot, for your driver. Can you tell me what the proper ball position is for each club? Bob, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to throw you under the bus first. You want to answer that?
Well, I think that's more a technical question for the teaching pro, but I go back to again. I go back again to the swing sequence, and no matter what kind of shot or where you're positioning the ball, I mean, you still have to make sure that you're in proper position, that backswing is getting you into a good hitting position so that you could initiate the downswing in the proper hitting sequence, which starts from the ground up, initiated by the hips and then the trunk and then the arms and then the club. And in doing so, you're going to have an efficient energy transfer so that you're going to be able to develop some pretty good club head speed and ball contact at distance. So that's all I've got to say about that.
Well said. You pulled that one out just perfectly. Brad, you want to get into
Sure.
more of the technical side here and answer. And let me just Brad, just before you start,
okay.
That is a really a common question, and the reason why an issue is ball position. A lot of people struggle with that, and let me just inject this here. When you watch some of the earlier video of Jack Nicklaus as an example, Jack always tended to play, or at least it certainly appeared that way to most, that he played the ball very well forward in his stance for pretty much all clubs, and obviously, of course, more notably the driver, but even his wedges in that didn't always appear like they were towards the center in that. So this is something that, again, when people are watching some of the pros on TV, but depending on the camera angle, it can look a little dicey at times, so they're not always sure. And there are some different theories and reasons for doing, moving the ball position around. So let's answer what really the industry standard is for ball position. So, Brad, you go ahead.
To me, the ball position has become kind of a lost fundamental in golf. And the way I look at ball position, I always want to get the shaft. If I drew a line up the shaft, it really bisect my left eye. And ball position is all about really the club versus you trying to move the ball around. On all irons, the face progresses behind the shaft. So if I have the club going up the middle of my, going basically drew a line up the shaft to go through my left eye, the ball would be progressing back in my stance. So it would be, further back because, again,
sure,
irons are offset. But with drivers, the face progresses in front of the shaft. So the ball would move forward automatically. Again, keeping the shaft, in line with my left eye, the ball would move around. So I think the ball position moves basically about 3 ball widths from driver to wedge. And again, it's all about the club versus you trying to actually move the ball around. Because again, if the face progresses behind the shaft with a wedge, and it does so more with a wedge versus a 3-iron or 4-iron, and then the driver progresses in front of the shaft, it'd move around. So the basic answer of driver off your left heel and wedge in the middle of your stance, I just don't go that way. I try to help them understand that if you simply keep the shaft in line with your left eye in that area, and your hands are kind of in that line as well, then the ball will move simply because how the club's designed, not because you actually moved it. It's just how the club's designed.
Right. Let me just add one thought here as well, and I think there's something that people have to understand, especially in modern golf today. And let me give you an example. Years ago, most golfers were always taught, sort of a shoulder width stance, maybe slightly more for your driver, and then progressively, depending on what clubs you're using, your wedges, your feet would be a little bit closer together than they would for, say, a driver. But what I think where I think people misunderstand a little bit, and I'll use the driver as the most obvious. The problem with right off your left heel is this. If you go by the traditional sort of theory of shoulder width stance, that might be fine. But the problem is in today's game where people are trying to hit a little bit further and maybe having a slightly wider stance, if you in turn keep that ball directly off your left heel, what happens is you now open your shoulders. And in other words, if you look at some of the top tour players that take a wide stance, you'll notice that when they hit their driver, they've actually moved the ball slightly back from their left heel in order to compensate, because the ball really needs to be in relation between their shoulders and their sternum. And what happens is your shoulders can't go any wider than what they are, but your feet can. So if you play the ball in the same position, but you widen or narrow your feet, that's going to change where the ball is in relation to your feet, but it's not going to change in relationship to your shoulder. So as an example, again, if you were using your driver and you wanted to make solid contact, if you suddenly widen your feet by 6 inches, let's say as an example, and I know it's an extreme from what you would traditionally use, and then in turn play that ball forward up off your left heel, you've actually, in a sense, moved it so far forward that, one, you're probably going to top it if you make contact at all, or you're going to hit a big slice because you're going to open your shoulders so much in order to be able to reach for that ball. So I think people need to understand, as you indicated, Brad, that it's not really so much there is some movement going to be from club to club, but it's not going to be as great a movement. It's more in relation to the club face itself. Any thoughts there, gentlemen?
Well said.
Or am I out in left field?
That's good. I mean, your shoulders are always going to be a little bit open because if my right hand's lower on the club than my left, that would tend to open my shoulder. So I don't mind people having a slightly open shoulder because, again, it's more of how the grip is with the right hand being lower on the shaft. So, I agree with that. The key here for a driver is I definitely want to catch the golf ball on the upswing. I mean, that's key to really good drives. And the more the ball moves back in your stance, it'd be hard to catch the golf ball on the upswing. So by simply having the shaft in the proper relationship with my body and the face progressing in front of the shaft, like you said, it's not going to move a ton. I mean, I kind of take 3 golf balls and I lay them on the ground and say, that's how much your ball is going to move from driver to wedge. And again, it's not a lot. But as my stance gets wider, it looks like it's more forward. As my stance gets narrower, my right foot comes closer to my left foot, it looks like it's moving back some. So, Ben Hogan was always a believer that the ball should be in the same place, and then he'd try to widen or narrow his stance, and that moved the ball in effect for him.
Right. Exactly. Bob, do you have any final thoughts for Paul here on ball position, or have we pretty much covered it?
Well, I think regardless, I think the golfers would do themselves a big favor by getting together with a guy like Brad or a teaching professional and just having their swing videotaped because, I mean, I'm not a teaching professional, but I videotape the swing just to correlate some of the gross swing faults they may have to the physical deficiencies that they have. And, I've worked with all levels of golfers, from juniors up from touring pros, and, except for the pros who have pretty good swing mechanics, a lot of amateur golfers just have swing faults that they need to address. And, and until they really kind of improve the efficiency of their swing, they're not going to really be hitting the ball that well. So, I mean, get together with your teaching professional and have them take a look at your swing. And then, again, the correlation between a lot of poor mechanics and deficiencies in the body, there's a very strong correlation. So, get together with a golf fitness certified professional as well, and you got the best of both worlds there.
Well said. Great way to finish off that question. Bob, while your lungs are still pumping and your voice is still going, my next question, I'm actually going to flip them around. I had another one that was actually addressing the driver here, but I'm going to put it into your ballpark, so to speak, and start off. And this next question is actually from Jeff, funny enough, from Erie, Pennsylvania. Some good cold weather up there. I'm sure he's eager to get out, and his question falls right into suit here with what we're talking about. It says, good evening. I want to get ready for this year's golf season. Therefore, I want to start off right. I have never had a proper warm-up routine. Can you suggest some things to prepare myself for the season? So let's cover a couple of things. I have an idea of what he's asking about. He obviously is not just talking about pre-shot routine. He's talking about getting ready for the golf season. So, Bob, let's take this gentleman. He's coming out of a deep winter thaw up there in the snow belt here in Pennsylvania. He wants to get out there and get on the links early this year. What are some things that he should be, that Jeff out of Erie, Pennsylvania should be doing to prepare for the season?
Well, hopefully he's been utilizing that winter indoors and doing some stuff to prepare himself for the upcoming season. But, range of motion stretching is key. It's very fundamental for the game, and again, to get your body to do what it needs to do to swing an efficient golf club. There are some definite major common deficiencies that golfers have, in all the years I've been working with golfers. Internal hip rotators are a big deficiency in many golfers. Tight hamstrings in the back of the thighs are a major factor in a lot of golfers. So, being biased, I would say go out and find a golf fitness instructor and have an assessment to determine where your deficiencies are, because we all have them. We all have them. And lifestyle provides them, what you do, what you don't do. And then once you identify where the deficiencies are, then you want to focus a program to isolate those deficiencies to improve upon them so that, when it comes springtime, you're out there and you're ready to go. It would be okay if I plug a few things?
You certainly can.
Well, I have a website that has a lot of articles, that address, all these common deficiencies, and that is at www.golffitcarolina.com. It's one F and one T, so it's more like Golf Fit Carolina. And I also just came out with a book. I've been working with all these golfers over the years. As I mentioned, there are definite common deficiencies, and so I put that into a book as a resource for golfers and for teaching professionals that will help them to identify, there's simple self-assessments in there that they can do to see whether or not that they, which deficiencies they have, and then there are over 40 exercises and drills that are indicated in the book that they can do to help them correct those deficiencies. But definitely, you got to identify, a general fitness program is okay, but if you can really target, the weaker areas, that's going to help the body move more efficiently. That's going to help your golf swing. That's also going to reduce your risk for injury.
Very well said. Bob, I'm going to come back to you in a moment because I have sort of a bit of not a rebuttal question, but a follow-up question I want to ask you with respect to the fitness end, but I want to give Brad an opportunity here to jump in as well. Brad, let's help Jeff here in Erie. Let's just assume that he hasn't been warming up too much. What are some things from the not from the physical fitness side? Bob has eloquently talked about that, but let's talk about the game side of it. How can he get ready to be able to hit some good shots? Let's assume that he doesn't have an indoor facility nearby to get in and play. What are some things that maybe he could do in the house, maybe to warm up and get ready for the year?
Well, Bob made a great point. I mean, it's got to be, you have to do an assessment. So I'm definitely in the ballpark with Bob about that, because assessments are huge in terms of determining what they can and can't do. But as far as swing-wise, I would have him, if he has an area in his house where he can make a full swing, I would have him make 100 swings a day. I mean, just swinging the golf club, go ahead and get the right, get your grip, your setup, and make basically 100 swings a day. And if he's just making the swings, he's kind of keeping those muscles that he would be using in a golf swing,
right,
kind of keeping those kind of, for lack of a better term, in shape. And, if he's making 100 swings a day, he can actually get a good feel for the club face, get a good feel for his motion. And, I have people do that all the time. They can't go out to the range and practice. I say, look, whatever, what we're working on your swing, what I want you to do is to do 100 of these a day. You can do them at 25 in the morning, 25 in the afternoon, 25 in the late afternoon, 25 at night, and that way they kind of keep those muscles moving, and that information, what they're trying to do, transfers better on the golf course because they've been making those swings. So I really am a pretty big believer in making lots of swings, not necessarily hitting golf balls, just making swings.
Right.
That way you kind of get that sensation.
Excellent point as well. And also, too, I think, excuse me, if you're lacking the ability to get to, Jeff, and I'm referring to him, to an indoor facility that you can work at with your teacher professional, then doing what Brad has suggested is making some, if you have the ability to do it in the house without breaking half the furniture,
right,
get in there and make some full swings. And some other things that you can do as well is, you can obviously always work on your putting indoors. That's a good area to work as well. And you can set up a little, if you've got a rec room there up in Erie, if you've got a basement or rec room or something to that area, or an area in the house that you can sort of delegate as your workstation, and set up something, whether it be a cup or a mug or something that you can putt into, just to help. I know it's not going to be exact, depending on whether you're using carpet or what, but at least it helps you with your feel a little bit. But definitely keeping yourself and getting those muscles, as you said, Brad, keeping them working all the time and not letting them sort of seize up. And this brings me, Bob, I want to come back to you quick, and then Jeff, I want to, Brad, I want to ask you as well to follow up on this. But what are some things that people don't do in the winter, or rather do in the winter that they shouldn't be doing, that is going to sort of trickle into their golf game? And Bob, I'm going to tackle you first from the physical end. What are some things that you've come across over your years from a fitness end of it that people are doing that really they shouldn't be doing, that is going to affect their golf game?
Well, the thing is that playing golf is going to create deficiencies in your body because you're swinging the club from one side of the body, repetitively over and over and over again. So unless you take a swing from the left side for every swing you take it from the right side, you start to develop, imbalances. So, the off season is a great time to really kind of correct those imbalances. And again, I think one of the biggest mistakes that I see in golfers is that they just kind of jump into a gym and start throwing weights around and stuff like that. And again, that's okay. But there are golf-specific functional exercises that you want to do versus jumping on the big bulky equipment, that will provide multiple benefits per exercise, that will work on the flexibility of the range of motion, the golf-specific strength and balance, and then eventually, getting into kind of power speed exercises. Because the other factor is, as we get older, we tend to lose muscle mass due to a condition called sarcopenia, and you can kind of slow that process down by exercising, especially resistance training. But the problem is most of the muscle mass we lose is what's called fast twitch muscle fiber, which is responsible for short, explosive movements like swinging a golf club. So as you get older, you tend to lose that capacity to recruit these faster twitch muscle fibers because you're losing them. So when you get into your exercise program, you just don't want to go out there and start throwing weights around. You definitely want to work on a progression of correcting the deficiencies, the imbalances that you've developed, get into golf-specific strength, and then definitely get into some power speed work so that you can get, recruit those faster twitch muscle fibers better, and therefore, you won't be losing distance when you get out on the golf course, next year.
Excellent points. Brad, do you want to also respond to that? What are some things that, from a swing standpoint, that maybe you've seen or discussed with some of your students that they shouldn't be doing in that off season that's going to affect their game?
Well, they definitely don't want to, pick up the latest issue of Golf Digest and find something in there that they want to work on. They just kind of pick something out because they don't have no idea if that's tailored to them. What I have a lot of my students do, they're actually able to send me video of their golf swing, and I can download onto my system and prescribe some things that they should be working on over the wintertime. I do that a lot during the wintertime. They just video, one from down the line, one video from the side on, and I can download it onto my system and then make an analysis of it and send it back to them and say, okay, here's what I want you to work on. So that way they're still working on the right stuff. They're not trying to, incorporate. I'm as guilty as anybody else. When I get out on the range and hit golf balls, I can only hit golf balls probably for roughly 30, 35 minutes because if I do, I'm going to start tinkering around with my golf swing. And that's the thing I don't want them to do is tinker too much because they don't know what they're doing. So that, I think that's a great way to kind of work on during the wintertime is with your local pro or the guy you work with. If they have the ability, send them some video of your golf swing and say, okay, what should I be working on in the wintertime, to kind of maintain the stuff we've worked on in the past, and that way they don't get off on the wrong tangent.
Excellent points, guys. I'm sure that Jeff up in Erie is eager to get back out and put some of that into good use in the upcoming season. Of course, he's probably going to have a couple more months before he's going to be able to get out in the golf course, knowing the weather up there right now. But nevertheless, some great tips, Jeff, that you can be working on in the meantime while you're getting ready to get out on those links. And this also rolls into a really great question from Bill from Tacoma, Washington, that sort of follows along with this. And I know we've answered it a little bit, but I think that there's some more things that we can tweak here. And Bill writes this, I have some, and I didn't specify, but he says, I have some physical limitations. My mobility is not what it used to be. What are some exercises? Here's this question. What are some exercises that I can do to help get some mobility back? Now, it doesn't tell me his age, so I'm assuming he's probably at least my age anyway, so he's in his 50s and up. Bob, let's go back to you for a second. let's not get into, I mean, we know that they need to be doing some certain things, and I don't imagine that he's going to want to get into some heavy weights, but what are some specific exercises that Bill in Washington can be doing to maybe help get some of that mobility back?
Well, Bill's like a lot of golfers out there that just lack the mobility, the range of motion. Excuse me. And, a good stretching program can go a long way for these golfers in terms of feeling good and hitting the ball well. Again, it comes down to, a total body stretching routine would be in order. Exercises to make sure that they isolate the hamstrings, the hip flexors, the internal hip rotators, the mid-back area, the shoulder rotation. I mean, without really kind of being able to get into specific exercises, go to the
right.
I mean, it's got a lot of it's called functional golf fitness training. It's got a lot of pictures, especially directed for guys like Bill, who really need to work on mobility, range of motion. But again, the key there is, go for a fitness assessment. Look for a certified instructor. Find out where the bigger, weaker areas are, and then focus on those. And yoga is a great program to do nowadays. More male golfers need to get into yoga because that will help with range of motion and being able to swing the club better. But he hits the nail on the head when he says that he needs to work on flexibility, because that's probably the biggest thing for many golfers.
Yeah, exactly. And I just want to thank Bob for that shameless plug on his new book.
Well, it's got a lot of good information in it. A lot of good pictures in there and stuff.
I know. I'm just teasing you, and I'm just kidding here. But no, that's true. And Brad, from a swing aspect, what are some things that Bill can be doing as well? I mean, we know what the physical part of it can be done, but what are some things that he can be working on with his swing to help with that mobility? Some exercise or some tips that he can be using?
Yeah, I mean, again, golf's not very generic, and when someone asks me a question about their golf swing, I say, well, it depends. And they say, what do you mean it depends? I says, well, I don't know what you do, so I'm not going to give you getting with a good teaching professional, getting with someone that actually can help them with their golf swing, and then some things they can work on in their golf swing. But like Bob said, you want to have somebody who has some basic knowledge about anatomy and how the body functions, and for someone who can actually give them an assessment on what the body can and can't do. And then, because the worst thing you can do is try to make someone do something that they physically cannot do. And so that's why I do a lot of assessments with my students and say, oh, look, I got two options here. I can work around that issue, or you got to go get it fixed, which I'd send somebody like Bob who would actually get the issue fixed. But the teaching pro that they work with, they want to keep on working on some of the key elements that's going to help them play better golf. And again, it all depends on where they are. There's no generic answers in golf, I think. It just depends on where they are and where they want to go.
The other thing,
I think
if I could interject.
Yep, sure. Go ahead, Bob.
Brad hit on a good point there about compensating. If you can't do something, that the Golf Digest or Golf Magazine is trying to tell you to do, like making a good shoulder turn or whatever, and so you try something different, you try repositioning your feet, or you try changing your grip. I mean, those compensations, now you're asking the body to do something that's not accustomed to doing, that it may not be able to do, and so you increase the risk of injury. So it's always better to fix, like Brad says, fix the problem, become more efficient in the golf swing, and you'll just love the game again.
Yeah, and you're, gentlemen, again, you're right on the nail, right on the head with both of your answers, and I'm sure that Bill up in Tacoma, Washington, will appreciate some of the tips. And just, if I was to add to that, there's really two things that I see more often than not is people not working on the right things. From a physical standpoint, Bob, you pointed out, they hit the weight room and they think that, coming out looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger used to is the way to go. And I know that's a bit of a stretch, but that's the mentality. They think, well, if, they see Tiger out there, he's physically fit, and they see some of these other younger guys that have come up on the tour in recent years. But they're not out there throwing a lot of weight around. I mean, yes, they're doing their weightlifting and things like that, but they're doing it to a certain point. You don't see them bulking up and coming out like they're about ready to bend steel rods. They certainly keep themselves fit, but they're working on certain key areas that they know are going to benefit their golf swing. So that would be number one and we're going to let you do another shameless plug in a few minutes here, Bob, on your book and website and that, to let people go and
it's interesting. It's interesting when I do finish working with people and I take them through their initial set of exercises. A lot of them are like, "This is nothing like I thought it was going to be like," because again, they're more functional type exercise.
Exactly. And what people have to understand, too, is, when you're playing different sports, there's different exercises. People don't understand that. There are literally different exercises for different sports because you're engaging a different set of muscles for some sports than you are for another. Some you're engaging the same muscles, but others you're doing. I mean, obviously certain sports like baseball and things like that mimic in many ways the golf swing, so there's a lot of muscles engaged. But, obviously a football player is engaging a whole different set of muscles in many cases than maybe what a golfer might, or certainly in a different sequence. So, this is why it's important to get, connected with somebody such as yourself, Bob, from a physical standpoint, with a certified physical, professional. And from a playing position, Brad, somebody needs to also, as you said, maybe if they have the ability to have video of their swing sent to their local pro that they're working with, and let them assess what some of the things that they need to be working on, and let them get an overall picture and view of what their swing is about. And a lot of people, need to have that expertise and that experience to sort of walk them through, because most people don't. I mean, let's be honest. Most people, if we're going to get down to brass tacks, the majority of especially the high handicappers out there, they don't really know what they're doing half the time, and they're trying to mimic what they see on TV or what they see in the magazines. And unless you are somebody that can really understand and articulate these things, you're quite often might be doing something that's going to be either harmful to yourself, or you don't have the ability to accomplish yourself, or you're going to be doing things that maybe your body just cannot do, and you're just going into a whole myriad of things. So some great points, guys, that you did, and I just wanted to wrap that up. I'm going to end with one more question, and then I'm going to give each of you an opportunity to give a shameless plug. And Brad, I'm going to let you go a little bit longer than Bob, only because he's already snuck a few in here. But anyways, the last question here is, and the reason I saved this one to last was because I wanted to give Bob an opportunity to get some of the physical part of it in here. And this is from Jared down in Orlando, Florida, where I was down for my 50th a couple of weeks ago. And Jared writes in, speaking of driver, funny enough, I really struggle with my driver. My shots tend to go right, but I also top the ball and hit some worm burners here and there. I just can't hit my driver at all. Do you have any drills to help me be a more consistent driver? Brad, I'm going to start with you, obviously, from the swing aspect of it. It sounds like Jared really struggles with his driver in general, so I know obviously we want to get him with a teach professional in his area, but just give him some couple of pointers that maybe you can look at.
Well, you've got to catch the golf ball on the upswing with a driver. Most people have a very steep downswing, again, that in, up, and over move. And so I would get the club to travel on a flatter angle on the way down. They've got to catch it, again, more on the upswing. And to give a shameless plug, if you go to my YouTube channel, I have a YouTube channel, just Brad Redding Golf, and there's several videos on there on how to hit your driver better. And I would definitely encourage him to go watch those, because those ideas about the golf swing, I get that all the time. People say, "But hey, my iron's pretty good, but I'm not very good with my driver." And I said, "So do you think you make a better swing with your 7-iron versus your driver?" And they go, "Bingo, you've got it." I go, "You know what? Not even close. What it is that your swing is shaped in a way that the 7-iron won't be too bad. It's got loft and shorter, and the angle is more upright. The lie angle is more upright. And with your driver, it's flatter, longer, and less loft. So whatever error you do make it's going to show up with that club because of the shape you have in your swing. So I have people make a lot of what I call baseball swings, hold the driver about knee height, the head about knee height, and make a lot of swings with the clubs going more around them because they're actually swinging the club too steep, and they get that feeling of more of that rounded motion that helps them actually get the club on a shallower angle on the way down where they get the golf ball more on the upswing and better results from there.
Very well said. And Bob, do you want to throw in some comments as well on there?
Definitely. It sounds like classic early extension, which it sounds like his hips are moving towards the ball, and so he's blocking his arms from coming through, and so therefore he's pushing his shots out. And with early extension, what happens is the hips move forward, the upper body tends to rise up, and if it rises up too much, he tends to top the ball. You come over the ball, or you hit fat shots. You hit behind the ball. Now, the physical correlations with that are weak glutes. You know, if we take somebody and we ask them to do a deep squat, and if they can't, there's a 90 to 95% correlation between that and the early extension swing fault, and that's generally because the calves are tight. So there's really three muscle deficiencies that can be factored in here. It's either tight calves and or tight hamstrings and or weak glutes. And, you know, you'd have to determine which one of those, if not more, are deficient and then work to correct those. And you can find that in my book, Functional Golf Fitness Training.
Another shameless plug. Way to go, Bob. Some great tips, gentlemen, and I want to thank those that emailed in. Kenneth, who gave our main question, balance swinging on two good feet. Thanks, Kenneth, for sending that in. And I want to thank also Mark, Jacob, Paul, Jared, Jeff, and Bill for sending your questions in and posing them for our Coach's Corner panel. Gentlemen, I want to thank you very, very much for partaking. I know that you've got busy schedules of your own, and I'm very, very grateful that you've given us an hour. It's hard to believe that the hour has already sailed past here, and I know you've got a lot of other things to do, but I'm going to give you just another quick opportunity, if you will, to just let the listeners here know how they can get a hold of you if they want to maybe come out and take some golf lessons, Brad, or in your case, Bob, if they want to get some help on the physical end, how they can do that. So, Brad, I'm going to let you go first. Let everyone know your website and how they can get in touch with you. And anything else you want to plug, go ahead.
Sure. My website is bradreddinggolf.com. They can email me at brad@bradreddinggolf.com. That's all one word, bradreddinggolf.com. They can follow me on Twitter, which again is Brad Redding Golf. They can follow me on Facebook. My Facebook page is Facebook.com/the Golf Academy. They can follow me there. And then, of course, I have over 1,000 videos on YouTube. My YouTube channel is Brad Redding Golf as well. And would love to help anyone who wanted to send me a video. I'm the Director of Instruction at the Members Course at Grande Dunes. They can call me there, 843-913-1359. Again, 843-913-1359. They can book a lesson through the golf shop. And had a great time, Ted. Thanks very much for the invitation.
Not a problem, Brad. And I was looking through my notes here earlier, actually, before you came on tonight. And I know that I talked about having you on for your own segment here to do an interview with you, and I thought we had set up a date, and I don't believe we have. So I'm going to reach out to you over the next week or so, and I want to get you back on here and give you some time. So I'll do that. So hang just tight here for a second, because Lord knows Bob has one more shameless plug before we let you go and I move on to Cindy Miller. So Bob, Mr. Forman, go ahead and let the listeners know how they can get in touch with you and some of the great things that you have on your website.
Well, first let me say I've been out to Brad's training facility. It's a great facility, and if you're in the Myrtle Beach area, you should check them out. My website is at www.golfitcarolina. That's one F and one T, so it's like Golf It Carolina. There's a lot of articles and videos on there to help you play the game physically better. My book is Functional Golf Fitness Training. You can get a print copy on the book patch, or you can get an e-copy on Amazon. And I also have a Twitter account at Golf Fit Carolina. If you have any questions, you can email me at bob@golffitcarolina.com. And I appreciate the opportunity, Ted.
Glad to have you guys on tonight, and I want to thank you again for taking time out of your busy evenings and coming on here for the Coach's Corner panel. I know that I get a lot of great comments and emails coming in and the questions just keep pouring in. So a lot of great help tonight, guys. I appreciate it. And as I said, Brad, I'm going to reach out to you in the next week or so, and we'll set something up to have you come back on here and talk a little bit more about Brad Redding Golf, your academy and so forth. But gentlemen, again, thank you very, very much for being on Golf Talk Live and Coach's Corner. And you're welcome to come back anytime and participate again. And I think I'm not sure. I'll double check the Coach's Corner schedule, but I'm not sure if you guys have signed up for any future dates. But if not, if I need to send it back out to you, I would love for you guys to come back on. We'll have some more questions on here, and we'll try and get some other teacher pros on here to come on as well at the same time and get a different mix going. But I appreciate it, guys, for taking the time tonight, and thanks for helping out my audience.
Thank you, Ted.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Not a problem. Bob, you safe rest of the trip and have a great time up in Asheville, North Carolina with your wife. Enjoy a good long weekend. And Brad, thank you again for joining us here on Golf Talk Live's Coach's Corner.
Enjoyed it, Ted. Thanks.
Will do. Thanks.
All right. Good night, guys. Thanks. All right. Thanks. Okay. While I wait here for my next guest tonight is actually a very special lady. We've talked a number of times. I've never had her on the program before, but let me just tell you a little bit about her before she comes on. I'm just waiting for her to check in with the program. But as I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, my special guest tonight is LPGA Professional Cindy Miller. And you can find out more about her on her website at www.cindymillergolf.com. You can get some more details on that on her website. And Cindy and I are going to talk a little bit about a new venture that I've been working on here for a little while, and it's going to be coming up in the next couple of weeks. And of course, I've talked about it here in the program, but we're going to do sort of an official announcement here tonight on the program. But Cindy, just to tell you a little bit about her, Cindy Miller is a graduate of the University of Miami, where she began as a walk-on and gained All-American status her senior year on the Division I women's golf team. She served as team captain and helped her team win the NCAA national championships in 77 and 78. She's a veteran of 5 U.S. Women's Opens. She's a former LPGA Tour player and presently a Class A LPGA professional. Currently, she plays on the Legends Tour, which is the ladies' equivalent of the Champions Tour, the official senior tour of the LPGA, of course, and sits within the top 30 of their career money list. She competes with such LPGA Tour stars as Nancy Lopez, Pat Bradley, and, of course, Jan Stevenson, and voted the 2010 National LPGA Teacher of the Year. She has also been named Player of the Year for the Northeastern United States. Cindy is among top 50 women teachers in the United States, ranked by Golf Digest magazine. As I said, I'm just waiting for her to check in with the program. She should be checking in shortly. And once I do, I'll bring her on live, and just got some questions for her just to let you, my listeners, know what she's all about and how she can help some of you out there. And again, I can't thank enough all of the professionals out there that have been participating in the Coach's Corner segments here these last few weeks since we started March 6th. And for those that have come on and been interviewed here, I appreciate your time. I know it's very valuable, and I appreciate you giving time, and I know that the listening audience here is really appreciated as well. So thank you very, very much. Just remember, if you want to listen to Golf Talk Live, we are live every Thursday evening at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, right through until 8 p.m. Central Standard Time here on blogtalkradio.com, and that's Golf Talk Live. And I think my guest is here this evening, so let me bring her on. As I mentioned, Cindy Miller is a LPGA professional and has been for quite some time. Is going to come on here on Golf Talk Live right now. Good evening, Cindy, and welcome to Golf Talk Live. How are you?
I'm great, Ted. How are you tonight?
I'm doing very well. It was perfect timing because I just finished your introduction and just read a little bit out to the listening audience, so they're well warmed up and ready to listen to some great conversation. Cindy, I just want to first thank you very much for coming on Golf Talk Live this evening. I know that you're a very busy lady and got a lot of things happening in your life, and especially in your golf business and that. So I appreciate you giving us some time here this evening. And let me just start off and just tell a little bit about your background and some of the credentials that you bring to the game, and then we'll get into some questions.
Where should I start? I was a walk-on at the University of Miami, and I graduated the number one player on the team, and we won 2 national championships my junior and senior year, and I was an All-American my senior year. I then tried to qualify for the tour and missed my first time and qualified my second time. I played on the LPGA Tour for 3 years, lost my card, and married Alan Miller, a past champion life member of the PGA Tour. We have been married for 32 years. Alan played on tour for 15 years, played in 5 Masters, a bunch of U.S. Opens and PGA Championships. And I guess it was 2000, I saw that there was a Legends Tour. So the kids were old enough. We have 3 beautiful children, and I got my clubs out of the closet and thought I needed to defeat the demons that had got me when I was younger. And I've been trying to get better ever since.
And better you have, that's for sure. And I actually read some of that out a little bit before, but I'm glad that you put things in perspective. And, you know, one of the things that one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on, there was really a couple of reasons. You and I are going to talk a little bit about that a little bit later on. But, you know, there are a lot of people in the golf business, and there are some hard-working people. And I think just by virtue of us sometimes trying to coordinate our schedule, even just for a phone call, just goes to show that we're obviously along the same lines. We're both very hardworking individuals, and you really have to be in this game. If you want to succeed in any business, really, but particularly in the golf business, you have to be, you know, keep your game sharp and so forth. And you know, you obviously have been somebody that is very dedicated to the game and has enjoyed playing for many, many years. And you want to keep that game sharp, and you want to keep active, and the only way to do that is to keep yourself busy and doing the things that you need to do in order to get to that next level, and you've certainly shown that you're a master champion at that.
Well, I think it's probably selfish reasons, because I wanted to solve my own issues, so I kind of use myself as a living laboratory. And right. I have been very introspective to say, okay, why have I not, I mean, I've played well. I'm one of the best in the world for my age group, but, you know, why have I not been better? And what could I fix? So I'm very humble when it comes to that. And because this Legends Tour, it gave me an opportunity to have a reason to hit balls. And to have a reason to look in the mirror and say, okay, are you afraid to win? Are you afraid to lose? You know, are you not swinging good enough? Do you not putt well? What's wrong with you? And why do you not play better? And what can you do about it? And so that's the playing part. As far as the working part and teaching part, I think almost everybody in the golf business works pretty hard. We happen to be self-employed. You know, I think club pros work really hard. You know, I would never want that job. But we're self-employed, so we have to teach, or I start every year at 0. So I have to reinvent, you know, what I'm going to do so I can make a living. So, that's just the way I'm wired. I think I'm a little bit unemployable. I've got, you know, control freak blood in me. And so I'm always trying to figure out, you know, how to be better and what can I do to help myself. And then I, in turn, use that, and I'm very transparent with my students. And I believe that if I can fix me, then I can help you learn to fix you, because I know how it feels to stand over a ball and hear a little voice that says, warning, warning, don't swing, this feels yucky, you know. So.
Yep. Exactly.
I don't know if I answered your question, but I won't.
You know, you answered it beautifully. That was exactly what I was looking for. One of the things that I've noticed in the golf business is, that there's a need really to get back to the basics in golf, and let me explain that first, and then I want to move on to a few questions here. And what I mean by that, all the technology, I've said this many, many times on Golf Talk Live and spoken with many different instructors from really around the world, and particularly here, obviously in the United States. But what I mean by that is, all this technology is great, but if you're not able to put the fundamentals together and able to hit the ball where you need it to go, all the technology in the world is not going to do anything.
Yeah, that's so. I laugh because people look at you and it's like, wait a minute, the only thing that touches the ball is the club face. So
that's
let's
right.
learn to control the club face, and guess who's holding that club? So
that's
yes,
correct.
It boils down to the ball goes straight when the face is square, the ball goes up when the club goes down. So I don't care what TrackMan says. What are you doing with the club? So I would agree with you. I'm not saying that technology's not good. I use TrackMan to get fit for my driver so I can hit it 10 yards farther. I've been trying to buy yardage my whole life. But
right, exactly. And here's what I mean. Let me clarify.
It boils down to the ball goes where its face points.
Exactly. And let me just clarify a little bit, because I want people to understand that are maybe tuned partway in through that comment. I want them not to misunderstand what I mean by that. Technology is certainly important. The game needs to evolve. It can't just sit back in the dinosaur age. It has to evolve. But we have to learn how to use that technology properly and not just use it as an excuse for not teaching the proper fundamentals in golf. And what happens is a lot of people get lost in the numbers and in the technology so much so, and that's great for some people, but there's a lot of people out there that we want to be able to teach this great game to that get too confused by it. And they just want to know, like you said, how to put the club face on the ball, how to make it go from point A to point B consistently, how to make good solid contact, and how to keep their scores. And the reason why I say this, and I'm sure Cindy you would agree with this, the stats don't lie. Handicaps have barely budged an inch in the last 20 years, despite all this technology and advancements. So there's a reason for that. Somewhere along this line, there's something missing. There's something that we're missing the boat on, because this technology has gone great leaps and bounds, but yet people's handicaps still have not moved very much
well, here's
for most
the deal.
of the average.
I totally agree with you. And this game is painful. So most people who have had an experience in the game have had a bad experience somewhere. So I call those people that try to help a confused student the committee members. So the committee of they might say to them, oh, you looked up, your left arm was bent. You did that. They're always telling people what they did wrong. And I've never met a student, and I've taught forever, I've never met one student who tried to miss the ball on purpose. So if the teacher can't tell the student how to hit it straight in the air on purpose 10 feet, they need to have their license revoked. It's not that hard. So when if you are listening out there and if this is painful for you, go interview an instructor and find the right person that will communicate to you to help you get it airborne and straight within 10 minutes.
Yep. Exactly. And that really moves into one of the first questions that I want to ask, and I know that you'll be able to articulate this for the listening audience. Why is the game of golf so difficult to master?
Well, I got to tell you, I'm very lucky that while I was at the University of Miami, a mutual friend introduced me to a guy by the name of Alan Miller, who was a golf swing technician, if you will. And Alan and I are dead opposite. So I would be the Suzanne Pedersen of the LPGA Tour, and Alan Miller is Jason Duffner, okay? So I am like a little pit bull who wants to kick your butt, and Alan just wants to go over on the side and hit balls by himself. Well, because he is this golf swing technician, he has really, really figured out the way to swing a club. So when I asked him to marry me, was also thinking, wow, free lessons for life out of this guy, right? So I'm not stupid. I must tell you that this man has made this so easy it's not funny. So after hanging out with him for 32 years, I finally get it. And I don't think it's that hard. I think most people that teach it don't understand it or don't know how to communicate it to make it easy. Now, is it mental torture? Absolutely. And again, because of my experience, there was a point in time when I wanted to kill my husband. And we had gone to this workshop, and this lady was talking about how her husband drove her nuts. So, of course, I sat up and paid attention. And she had written this book called Personality Plus. So, of course, I bought the book, and I took the personality test for Alan. And that book changed our lives because I realized he was so opposite of me and that people see things differently. So people need to communicate with people in the other person's language, if you will. Mm-hmm. So I believe that there are people like me that if I were to give a lesson to a Jason Duffner, I can't act like a competitive control freak. I need to soften my tone and let them ask me questions. Do you follow? So I don't know that people communicate correctly, and I don't know that they have the knowledge of how to tell someone to hit it airborne and straight without. I think some golf pros are guilty of trying to act like they're smart, and they're not trying to help their students. And I think that makes the game very confusing and difficult.
Well, let me add to that. Let me back it up a little bit. I think really and I could be wrong, but I think what sometimes the problem, I think all of the pros out there that really have worked on their game and on their teaching abilities, I don't blame them in the sense that it's a lack of ability, but I think what happens is what they don't understand is it's not a one size fits all in the golf game, because everybody's different. I mean, if you look back in time to the different types of swings that there have been, I mean, yes, essentially you're putting the club face on the ball, but if you look at some of the earlier players on how they, from Trevino to Nicklaus to Palmer, they all had unique different swings, swing shapes, things like that, but they had certain fundamentals that were key. And I think what's happened sometimes with some of the pros out there, and I think we've all at some point maybe been guilty. Let me give you another example. Some people can learn visually, and others need to, you can explain things and you can be a little bit more technical, and they can somehow arrange that in their mind and be able to articulate. But some people have to see it in a visual. In other words, the instructor might be able to, let's say if you were instructing me, you might be able to explain to me verbally what it is I need to do, and I can do that. But if I was more of a visual,
students, when they come in, I say to them, okay, if we had to go someplace that you've never been before and you can't use GPS, do you want me to tell you how to get there? Do you want to read written directions, or do you want to look at the map? So I'm trying to find out immediately, are they audio, visual, or kinesthetic? I check them out as they walk in. Are they really neat? What do you do for a living? I'm an engineer. What do you do? I'm a salesperson. Those two personalities are totally different. So absolutely, and I'm not saying that most golf pros don't do that. I'm just telling you that you have to teach the person that you're a student in front of you. And that I believe that it's a little easier. Yes, it's the most mentally torturous game, but if you're willing to stop and be aware of what you're doing with the club, it's not nearly as difficult.
Exactly. Well said. In addition to trying to master the golf game, it can also be very addictive. What makes golf so addictive?
Because when you do it right, it feels amazing. I mean, this is one of the only games that you can be on the field with a professional while they're playing in the tournament. You can pretend it's a participation sport. So you can feel like you're playing in the U.S. Open. when's the last time you went out on a football field with a football player? You can't do that, or on a hockey rink, or a soccer field. But on the golf course, they've got the AT&T, the Crosby. You can go play in the tournament with the players. And when you hit it like that, you feel like a pro. You can have the same equipment as a pro. You can pretend you're a star. And it's just a great high. It's just a great game. It's the never-ending pursuit of perfect.
Exactly. And it mimics life really, because it's a journey. Other sports, whether it be football, basketball, soccer, what have you, they have their own rewards, but there comes a point in time where you have to hang up the cleats, or you have to hang up. Golf is something that you can literally play until, you're ready to go in the ground. You might have to scale back and make adjustments as time goes on, but it's a game, and it's also a game that you will never master. I don't care how good of a player you are. You may, you may be able to become a very accomplished player, but you will never master it because there's always something to learn. There's always, something to uncover. It's like an onion, really, and I hate to use this metaphor, but it's really like an onion. There's different layers that get peeled back, and there's always a new layer underneath that you need to work on and figure out how to get to the next level. And that's why the pros, are constantly working on their games. The mistake that they get is they get to a certain level, and when they're not able to obviously when you're a higher handicapper, it's a little easier to go from a 20 to a 10. But once you get up to that pro level, let's say as an example, or a very low handicap player, the rewards are not quite as great, or momentum, let's say going from a 5 handicap to a 3 or even to a scratch. So there's not as big of a gap. And I think the problem that happens at the pro level that I've seen is they figure that the only way to do it is to reinvent the wheel. And that's why you'll see players like Tiger and some of the other ones that have gone, and Nick Faldo comes to mind, that go back and actually rebuild and reinvent their swing, so to speak. And sometimes that can be a good thing. Other times that can be detrimental to their ability. And we all know what happened with Ian Baker Finch. There came a point in time where he sort of leveled off a little bit and tried to make too many changes and just wasn't able to get back to where he needed to be. And ultimately he's now in the announcing booth instead, which is nothing wrong with that, but that can happen, and you have to be careful of that, especially at that level. But it definitely is an addictive game. Cindy, let me also ask you, how can somebody really learn to own their game?
They need to realize whether they're audio-visual or kinesthetic. They need to be aware of what their tendencies are. If there's 4 different personality types, I'm a certified behavior analyst, so I did go to get certified with all this personality stuff because it did save our marriage. You need to know I do the DISC assessments. Are you a D, which is a driven control freak? Are you an I, an influencing happy? That would be Christina Kim. Tiger would be a D. Suzanne Pedersen would be a D. Christina Kim would be an I. Chichi Rodriguez would be an I. Are you an S, which would be Jason Duffner, DJ, Freddie Couples? Or are you a C, which would be Charles Howell III, Bernard Langer? What is your personality type? See, if you are an S and you have a D as a parent, and the D parent is driving you to be the control freak, you might think something's wrong with you. And you might fall into a little hole. So it's very important that you know who you are and how you learn. And then it's very important for you to find an instructor that can speak to you in your language and that helps you understand things. So I got this little thing called the It Box, and to be able to own it, you need to know, why am I doing this? For me, it's redemption. It's the never-ending pursuit of my potential on the golf course. And so it's like, okay, so let's work on your swing, and how can you hit the ball better, and are you able to make decisions? What's your thought control like? What's your emotions like? Are you assertive, or do you lay back? Or, like Alan is Jason Duffner, they might tend to hit, 14 fairways and 18 greens, whereas I might fire it at the pin because I'm a competitive control freak, bury it in the bunker and make double. So you have to really find a balance with your own self and be comfortable, confident, and consistent, to have the courage to be able to truly know what you're doing. And so, to me, that's what it means to own your game. And it could be, I just want to break 110, or I want to break 100, I want to break 90. You can own your game at whatever level you want it to be at. You don't have to want to be on tour. It's like me at this point, I'm too old. I'm not going back on tour, but I'd like to be really consistent and comfortable when I play in a Legends Tour event.
Right.
I may never win a Legends Tour event, but if I'm happy with my results of Cindy controlling Cindy, then I just won.
Yep.
So that's to me.
Exactly. Yeah, very well said. What's probably, from a teaching standpoint, what's probably one of the most asked questions of you by a student?
I'm not sure about question, but their biggest want is to be consistent. Because everybody can hit a good shot, but why do they not do it? Well, the definition of consistent is boring, doing the same thing over and over again. So if they don't know what they're doing, truly most times it's luck that they hit it good because they haven't taken the time or invested the time to work on their game to truly try to improve. So once I make them aware of what they, the facts are, the face is square when the two lines go straight. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, good. And now let's try to do the same setup every time. Oh, I didn't know how far away to be from the ball. I don't know how to grip it on purpose the right way. Again, you have to do it within their body type of how they're built. But so consistent, again, is the definition is boring, and if we're not aware of what we're doing, then we can really become consistent when we learn. So then it becomes like a fun puzzle. Let's try to figure this out. This is great. So improvement can be almost immediate, which is really fun.
Right, and it goes and it goes back to what I said earlier about one size fits all. I mean, that's not the case. I mean, you have to assess each player, each potential student differently. You have to look at their needs and wants. Obviously, are important. You need to assess what it is that they want to accomplish. I mean, obviously,
I mean, how many women come into you for a lesson? I just have to say this one thing, and then I'll be quiet. How many women come in for a lesson that are 5'9" or 10, and they have women's clubs, and their back's killing them, and they can't get the ball in there. The clubs are too short. They haven't been fit for them. So each person is a special individual, and yes, they have to learn to play within their own body type and the way they think and the way they move.
Is there? Let me ask you this. In golf, in your opinion, and do you think that golf has gone in a direction where it's become a numbers game? And let me clarify that before you answer. Like so many other industries, the more people you get through and so forth, is there a fear that maybe as teach professionals we are more worried about the numbers, getting as many people through our clinics and schools and things like that, that we're maybe not doing the best that we can do? Is that happening in the industry? Have you seen that happening? And if so, what do we need to do to correct that?
I don't know that I see that. I can tell you that, when you're teaching all day, every half hour, nonstop, it's very hard. You're mentally exhausted. Because I pay such close attention. I don't even look at it as a numbers game. I look at it, how many people can I help? So I never do that. In fact, I say to people, I am so competitive that I play little mind games. When I help you get better than you ever thought you could be, I get a trophy, and you win too.
Yeah.
So I don't see that. I think that they're trying to get more people, like the Get Golf Ready program. I think that's a great program, and I'm not going to criticize how someone's teaching it. I do it as well. I run the program in Buffalo, and I love starting people to play. because they come in so apprehensive because typically they've had a bad experience. So they're like, oh God, I didn't really want to come, and wow, this is really fun, and I get better. So, yeah, I don't see that. I hope it's not happening.
Well, and I guess, again, to clarify what I meant by numbers game is not from a financial standpoint, but just, getting as many people through each day. And in some of the courses, we've seen that over the years where courses get so backlogged with golfers on there that a lot of people complain they don't enjoy it around. And I worry that with between technology and so forth, that the lessons are not maybe as fruitful as they need to be because of technology, because it's easier to use a machine or something to do the functionality of the teaching professional. And I worry a little bit that we're straying away from those basics a little bit, and because the numbers don't lie. I mean, I did on the program here a couple of weeks ago, and it talked about the number of rounds. Now, there's different reasons, obviously, but the number of rounds per year since 2006 has declined at 4.5% to 5% per year since 2006 out of the 27+ million golfers here in the United States. There's a reason for that. The number one reason they say is people are busier with work and other activities and things, but particularly work, and just don't have as much leisure time. But there's also, I've talked to a lot of teaching professionals, and I know you're an exception to the rule, and there are many out there that are busy all the time. But talking with a number of different teaching pros out there, it's almost like people are looking for that quick lesson. They don't want to go to the range. They don't want to go to the local PGA or LPGA Professional and spend an hour with them. They just don't have the time. So they're looking for a faster turnover. Is that something that you're noticing as well in the industry? Have you seen that or experienced that?
I don't think people have ever wanted to practice. I think practice is boring. Myself, I hate practice. But I believe that in this fast-paced world, I mean, everything we do nowadays is fast. I mean, you got to get a better iPhone and a better iPad that's faster, and you're text messaging people. Everything is fast, and golf is not. So you don't get your rewards as fast. So therefore, it's torture. So are you willing? I mean, how many students do you have that are really willing to practice and work on their game? I liken my business to a pyramid. The bottom of the pyramid is where people come in for giggles and fun, and that would be, the beginner golf lesson. Let's just go play a par 3. That's where those people belong. And then the next level is, maybe I'll work on this and I'll practice a little bit, And then the next level is, I think I'll work on it a little more. And then how many people do you really teach the top of the pyramid? It's very lonely up there. Very few people really want to open up Pandora's box and find out, all right, am I afraid to lose? Am I afraid to win? What's wrong with me? Why do I, choke every time I'm on the 18th hole? Do you really want to know? Because you can find out and fix it. But most people don't want to know. So I don't know that it's, I don't think it's lack of teaching. I think it's everybody wants a quick fix, and it just doesn't happen at all. So if for those people, I just got back from LPGA International and doing a boot camp, and we're going back down next week to do another boot camp because people, from here or anywhere, they meet us in Florida, and we beat them up for 3 days. We teach them in the morning. We play 18 holes every afternoon. Well, one of the women has not hit it that good. I said, you're going to use a tee on every shot. Well, that's illegal. I said, well, so what? We're breaking the rules so you can hit it further. You need to become comfortable so you can be more confident, so that you can become more consistent, because you can't do the same thing over and over again. And she did. And she's like, well, this is better. And I said, yeah, it was better for all of us, So if we make the game, the tee's a little shorter, which the PGA is trying to do with play it forward, you don't need to be back on the black tees when you can't hit the ball 300 yards. Who are you kidding?
Yeah, exactly.
Poor guys are hitting par 4s with their, that's one of the great guys got with the Legends Tour. Why are you making me hit 3 hybrid in? Let me hit a couple of wedges so I can shoot 68.
Yeah, and that's something and that's something I've talked that's something that I've talked to Cindy on the program in the past many times. And again, I'm not trying to point specific fingers, but, at the equipment industry particularly, I mean, their focus for the last probably couple of decades has been on the driver. And it's, hitting it further and longer and so forth. And really, that's not really accurate because the majority of people that have the ability to get those, 10, 20, 30 yards that are being advertised are really at the top level. The average player, I don't care what club you put in their hand, if they don't have the ability to make solid contact, they're not going to get 10, 20, or 30 extra yards with that $400 driver they just paid for. And unfortunately, the industry,
take a golf lesson for $30 or $40 or $50. Absolutely.
Exactly, and I think a lot of the pros out there are starting to realize that that the short game and working with putting and pitching and chipping and things like that is really where people are going to really score. And that doesn't mean you don't work on your drives and things like that. But if you're hoping to drop a few strokes off your game by simply going out and purchasing a piece of equipment, i.e. a brand new driver, if you're not comfortable in hitting that driver consistently to begin with, it's not going to make a world difference. And I think that, and I'm not saying this to knock the industry, but I think that people need to get real in this industry. And I think the people in the average consumer out there needs to understand. And I think they're slowly starting to understand that, but that's something that is for another show, but that's something that I think needs to change. And I think it's starting to change, but it's changing at the professional level, not talking to tour players so much, but at the professional level, teacher professional levels, I think they're starting to realize that the students need to focus on other areas of the game and not just trying to grip it and rip it. That's been, taught to them for so long. Cindy, I want to move on to something that you and I have been working on here and there the last few months. I think is going to be really very groundbreaking. I've mentioned it here a number of times over the last couple of months on the program, a new show that we're going to be launching here called Women of Golf. And it's going to be coming out in April. On April 8th is going to be the inaugural show, and that's Tuesday morning, and it's going to be from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you're going to be co-hosting that along with me. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that. There's a couple of reasons, then I'm going to let you share a few thoughts as well. But one of the reasons I wanted to do this program, and when you very eloquently offered your services here, I certainly jumped at the chance to have somebody such as yourself to be a part of this. And here's the reason why. With the Women of Golf program, as I've stated many times on here, we want to tackle many of the important topics that face women in the golf industry. And it's not just with the players and with the people in the golf industry itself, but in the industry in general. We want to talk about everything from equipment to the coaching and teaching, to the health in women's golf, and also accessibility, and as I've mentioned, in some cases, even lack of accessibility. We're going to be talking with some people from some of the best players on the LPGA Tour, as well as the teacher professionals in the LPGA, as well as women in the corporate world, plus many, many more things that we're going to be discussing in that. One of the reasons I really wanted to do this is I don't think that there's enough being done, and I've said this many times, and Lord help me if I get struck by lightning for saying it again, but there is a glass ceiling in this industry, and the women are underneath that glass ceiling. And it's about time that ceiling gets broken. And that's what I want to do with this show. And that's why I want to have you part of this. I think there's a lot of things that the ladies, they're just chomping at the bit to get involved. They want to play golf. They want to be able to understand this great game that you and I are involved in. But there's a lot of roadblocks along the way. And we want to open that up. And I think by having this program, we're going to be able to do that and maybe break through that glass ceiling. You want to share some thoughts on that as well?
I believe that most women, again, I think that it's growing, and I believe that it's getting better. And I think there's more women playing now than there's ever been, and the purses are bigger now than they've ever been. So I think it's getting better. But I would like to dispel the fears or help people solve the mystery of, why do I not play better? And, what is it that I can do to help myself? And how about, the mental game? We had surveyed a lot of people, and they very, very, very interested in short game, LPGA Tour talk, and the mental game. So I'm just looking forward to it because I think it's something that's groundbreaking. I thank you for asking me to help you with this, and I'm very excited about what we're going to do.
Yeah, I think, and I agree, and really what I mean by breaking the glass ceiling, you're 100% right. There's certainly more women playing. The purses have gotten bigger on the LPGA Tour, and we're not going to tackle that per se, but there are a lot of women too that have expressed, and I've heard this through different groups that I'm involved with. There is still a frustration, a lack of accessibility and ease, and I want to give the ladies a chance. The men out there, there's a lot of male teacher professionals, of course, very honorable and have done a great job over the years. And I want to help grow on the ladies' end. I've talked to some of the lady professionals out there, and they want to get more women engaged. And I think that there is been, even though there has been some certainly doors opened, I think there's still an apprehension by some women out there that are unsure or don't feel that the doors are completely open. And I'll give you an example. When you go into most golf courses and you walk into a pro shop and you look around, now obviously there's exceptions to the rule. It's very evident when you walk in, it's a very male-dominated experience. And a lot of women are very uncomfortable going into that setting, so they're very apprehensive about getting into golf. And with more and more women getting into the business world and the corporate world, they recognize the value of being able to play golf and using it as a tool in addition to enjoying and just having some fun or taking it to another level and maybe someday making it out on tour. But there's a lot of different great aspects of the game of golf that you and I know about, and we want to bring that to the ladies out there, and I think they're just dying. When I sent this original email out, Cindy, and I might have mentioned this to you, I'm not sure, but throughout just sort of my network, one of the resounding responses I got, overwhelming actually, was it's about time.
Yeah.
So I think that,
I think it's totally true. And again, I believe that if there are many, many women executives that play golf and use this game as a business tool, it's very intimidating. But if we teach them the right way, they can be very comfortable, and they will be welcomed with open arms at every single charity golf event. I mean, there are men that would love to play with a woman who can hit the ballpark, but it's scary and it's intimidating. So you have to go find the right person to help you learn the culture, the etiquette. Again, that's why I've written a book, Golf 101 for Executives. I'm speaking at the AWGA National Leadership Conference. I'm doing the Microsoft World Partner Conference to teach people you need to learn how to do this. Embrace the challenge, because your personal stock value will definitely go up.
No doubt on that, and I'm very honored to have you part of this. I think I'm looking forward to. I'm getting a lot of positive feedback about it, and people are with great anticipation looking forward to this program. And I know it's going to be successful. I know that both of us, being hardworking individuals, I know are going to put a lot of effort and some great style and flair to it. And I think we're going to be able to help a lot of women out there who are currently in the game become better. Also give them some information on not only getting better in the game, but how to enjoy it more and how to be able to use it both in the business end, but also in their personal end as well. I think as I mentioned a few minutes ago about the numbers declining a little bit, the way I look at this is the female market is virtually an untapped market in comparison to the male market. And I think that if the golf industry was to spend more effort, or even half the effort that they do on the male side of things, addressing the women in the market, especially now as more women get into the corporate world, I think that they would find that those numbers would suddenly start, going back up. And I think that the only way to do that is really to shed some light on some things, and that's some of the things that we're going to do. But we also have to make it so that they're engaged in the instruction and getting information that they need. And as you put earlier, Cindy, I just want to raise this point, and I'm going to let you speak, and I promise I'm going to shut up. People learn differently, and it's been a proven stat, that men and women learn differently. And I think one of the problems that has been in the past, because there aren't as many, obviously, women teacher professionals as there are men, is, and that's not to say that men can't teach women, there's different styles and different approaches. Women learn differently than men. And I think that if we can open those doors and make it more accessible and make it more enticing, that we can increase the number of women wanting to get into the golf industry in the teaching end as well as the playing end. And I think once we do that, more and more women are going to want to gravitate to the sport. And I see it starting to happen now, but it's not happening fast enough in my estimation. And I think that that's something that I think with you and I working on this program together, I think is going to give it credibility to a point where people are going to say, hey, somebody's taking notice of us. Because don't forget, women make up over 50% of the global population. So out of the 6.5 billion people out there, over half of them are women. And yet there's considerably less women playing golf than there are men. So we need to break that glass, as I said earlier. Cindy, you want to add some more thoughts to it?
Well, I also believe that, like you said, not only will it help them in the business world, but
and hopefully I didn't lose. Cindy, are you still with me?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Ted?
I think we might have lost her. I might have talked a little too long. And
are you there?
I think we might have lost Cindy, yes.
Hi, I'm here.
No, maybe not. Cindy, are you still here?
I'm here. Can you hear me? Hello?
I think she might have gone out of range. And
hi.
But anyways, I'll for some reason we're not picking her up, so I'm going to
Ted, are you there?
Just reiterate again, just to let people know. Cindy, just to let you know, if you can still hear me, for some reason,
can you hear me?
I'm not receiving you on this end here, so I don't know if maybe you want to call back real quick, and we can try and pick up the conversation again. But just to reiterate, let everybody know that coming on April the 8th at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Women of Golf program that Cindy Miller and I will be hosting together is going to be coming on blogtalkradio.com, Women of Golf. And that's going to be April 8th at 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And hopefully Cindy will be able to contact me back here in just a moment. We're getting down to the last few minutes of the program, and I think that's her here right now. Hi, Cindy, are you back?
So much for technology, right?
No, it still doesn't seem to be. I've got her back on here, but for some reason...
Can you hear me?
I'm gathering, Cindy, that Cindy was obviously calling on her cell phone, and she might have been in a situation where she's not got a good reception, because I'm not hearing you. Cindy, can you hear me at all?
Yes, I hear you. Can you hear me?
I'm not sure if she can hear me, but I obviously can't hear her.
Let me hear the phone.
Cindy, why don't we try this one more time if you want to try and call back one more time and see if we can get a good connection. But as I was saying here, while I wait for her to try that again, as I said, April 8th on blogtalkradio.com/Women of Golf will be the new program that's going to be coming out specifically geared for the ladies. So I want to make sure that you guys tune in for that. I think it's going to be a great program. Cindy and I are certainly looking forward to hosting that together. And I look forward to having you join us. And don't forget, my regular Golf Talk Live program is every Thursday evening at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time on Blog Talk Radio. You just simply type in Golf Talk Live, and that'll take you to that program. That's Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. I see you're calling back in. Let me try one more time. Hi, Cindy. Are you there now?
Are you there?
No, still not.
Ted.
I'm not sure, Cindy.
Hello?
I think we've lost the connection here somehow. I'm not hearing you at all.
I can hear you.
And I apologize to the listening audience. As I said, Cindy was on a cell phone, and she may have gotten out of a range of one of the towers, and for some reason I'm not able to hear her. Cindy, are you able to hear me?
I can hear you.
The show's actually going to be wrapping up here in just a minute. I want to thank you. If you can hear me, Cindy, I want to thank you, because unfortunately I'm not able to hear you at this time. But I want to thank my special guest, Cindy Miller, for joining me. And unfortunately, the last couple of minutes here that I haven't been able to get her online here. Cindy, if you want, we can try one last time here. But as I say, we're just getting ready to wrap up the segment, getting ready to go off air here. So I apologize to the listening audience. Very unfortunate, but I want to thank my very special guest, and co-host for the new program coming up, the Women of Golf, which is going to be airing April 8th at 9 a.m. That's a Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here on the Blog Talk Radio Network, and that's blogtalkradio.com/Women of Golf. Let me try. She's trying one more time here. Let me just see.
Ted, are you there?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
No, still not.
Hello?
Cindy, we're just wrapping up here. We're pretty much out of time, so if you can hear me here, I'm just going to let you know that we're going to stop the broadcast here in just a few short seconds, and I appreciate you giving me your time this evening. Unfortunately, it looks like we're not able to get a proper connection here for some reason. So I'm going to end the program here in just a moment. I want to thank all my guests this evening. I want to thank, of course, the Coach's Corner panel, Mr. Bob Forman, who was calling in on his travels to Asheville, North Carolina. He's a certified golf fitness instructor and director of Golf Fitness Academy at the High Point region in North Carolina. And, of course, Brad Redding, PGA Master Teacher Professional and Director of Instruction at the Members Club at Grande Dunes in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and also the owner-operator of Brad Redding Golf. And you can get Bob at www.golffitcarolina.com, and Brad you can contact through his website at bradreddinggolf.com. Thanks, guys, for helping out in Coach's Corner tonight, and I appreciate Cindy Miller as well, giving her time. And again, I apologize to the audience. We weren't able to make that connection in the last few minutes here, but I want to thank you for tuning in to Golf Talk Live. And don't forget to tune in to the Women of Golf show coming up in a couple of weeks on April the 8th on the blogtalkradio.com/Women of Golf at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that'll be on for 1 hour. Cindy and I will be co-hosting that. We've got a very special guest on our first show coming up on April 8th, and I will give more details as the week progresses. But thank you very much for joining on Golf Talk Live this evening. Don't forget you can get me here every Thursday evening at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Golf Talk Live. Thanks, everybody, and have a great evening.